Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai shir chadash.
Shabbat Shalom
Shabbat Shalom.
and welcome. I'm Rabbi Melinda Pankin,
Rabbi Jonathan Falco.
I'm Cantor Wally Shackett Briskin.
and we're joined by our president, Fabian Burston, and some guests on the Bima, who I'll introduce in just a few moments. But we're very, very happy to welcome you this evening for this very special Shabbat. This evening, we welcome Rabbi Joshua Weinberg, who is the vice president of the URJ and the leader of the Reform Movement Zionist body called ARTZA, the Association of Reform Zionists of America. And he's going to talk to us about the important work of ARTZA and the URJ in Israel and explain what important work we need to be doing as Reform Jews in Israel, or as Reform Jews who love Israel. We're also joined this evening, this is a joint event with, sorry about that. Thought it was silent. I didn't get to that part about silencing our phones yet, so I feel okay about that. And this evening, we're joined by our friends from Monmouth Reform Temple, and their president, Wayne Hallard, is here. And it's beautiful because we're joining as a community to bring Rabbi Weinberg down. And so make sure to look for faces you don't know now, tonight, and share some black and white cookies or some rugelach. Make some new friends, because Monmouth Reform is doing work to keep Reform Judaism alive in Monmouth County in the same way that we are, and we are neighbors and brothers and sisters. As we gather, just a few reminders. First of all, we invite you to look around the room and locate the exits. There is one here, two in the sanctuary, one on the social hall wall, and two all the way in the back. It is good practice wherever you go to pay attention to where the exits are. Also, we all play a part in security. If you see something, please never hesitate to say something. If you have a cell phone, please make sure to take a moment to check to make sure that it's in off or silent mode so as not to disturb our worship. And we also ask that if you have a need to use your cell phone, to step outside into the hallway. There are books for children in the back. I don't see a lot of little ones tonight, but they're always there. And we also have room 2 set up with a streaming video, so if for any reason you need to step outside or you want to run around for a little bit, room 2 is right there for you. As we gather, it's always nice to work on building community, and so I invite you to look around, find someone you don't know, find someone who's not close to you. You can get up and walk around, but find a person you don't know, introduce yourself to that person, and wish them Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So first, I want to say I got dressed today and felt like I put this nice sweater on, and my wife goes to me, "Oh, you've gone a little retro. You look like Mr. Rogers." So first, I want to welcome Rabbi Weinberg. Again, we had dinner with him before, and look forward to discuss his Israel engagement work on behalf of the Reform movement. So we just want to thank Shelley and Mark Wilner, the Hanani Fund, Jewish Federation to the Greater Metro West New Jersey for sponsoring him being here. So thank you. On Sunday, February 5th, Rabbi Falco will have his second Torah on tap at the Fireside Grill. I understand it's trivia night. This event is for 21 to 30-year-old members, so if you're interested, please join him there. On Sunday, February 26th at 11:30, we're looking for individuals to donate supplies as volunteers to assemble bags for the winter blessing bags to support the Monmouth County homeless community. The bags will contain small assortments of basic toiletries, comforts, and items and snacks. And if you're interested, you can register on our website to volunteer. Of course, I always get some people who want some late announcements, so I'm going to read these announcements as well. TSC's Care Community is in need of your assistance to perform the mitzvah of visiting the sick members of the committee. Visit Jewish patients at Central State Hospital every other Monday. Visits take approximately 90 minutes. Your flu shots and COVID vaccinations need to be current per the hospital rules. We will visit Jewish patients in the hospital and offer them a pamphlet from the temple. So if you're interested, please contact Rich Colbin for that. Temple Sherry Emmett invites you to join our Empty Bowls, raising money to fight hunger on Sunday, February 12th, 11:15 a.m. till 1:30 p.m. at the Social Hall. The cost is approximately $20, is $29 per person. Enjoy painting a beautiful bowl for you to keep, and a portion of the proceeds from this event will go to Open Door and local food pantry to feed those in need. Open Door also is doing a food drive. It started on January 24th, ends on March 10th. Hunger doesn't end with the holidays. Our local food pantry Open Door needs your donation. Right now, please help restock the shelves. Collection bins are located in the lobby, so please help out with that. As well, we try to do a lot of work for the homeless. As you know, we have a shelter program that takes place during the winter. We still have openings for people to volunteer, to stay overnight, to provide a meal or transportation. It's truly a mitzvah to help these people who are less fortunate than us. You can look on the internet for more information to help out on this. It's always great to have our choir here with us, so we look forward to the service with them. Torah study is tomorrow at 9 o'clock and also on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. You can do that, I believe, still on Zoom or in person, correct? Morning minyan tomorrow is at 10 o'clock. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And I want to encourage you, if you've never been to the morning minyan, it's lay-led, it's wonderful, it's in the Moedon, just an hour, and sometimes there are snacks. So, but it's just a lovely community. Go try it. So many good Jewish things to do here. We'll begin with our lighting of the Shabbat candles and our blessing of the wine, pages 120, 121 in your prayer book. It is my pleasure to invite Mark and Shelley Wilner, who have helped to sponsor this evening and bring it to fruition, to lead us in the blessings, representative of the way in which they are bringing light and warmth into our community all the time.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chit ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
We continue page 123 with the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ava u'bratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit kihu yom tehila lemikra'e kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
We turn to page 126 and read together. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other. To work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life.
Page 142, Shalom Aleichem. We turn to page 144 for our Chatzi Kaddish, our Reader's Kaddish. Yitgadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbi be'almad yivarach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'b'yomechon u'b'chayei dechol beit Yisrael pagala ba'agala u'v'zman karim v'meru amen. Yehi shemei Rabba mevarach le'alam u'la'alamei alamaya yitbarach. v'yishtabach, v'yitba'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yithaleh, v'yithalal, shemed kudsha, richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran me'alma v'yimeru. Amen. We invite you to rise in body or in spirit for our call to worship, page 146. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
Together at the top of page 149. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim.
Ahavat olam, et Yisrael, Amcha Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu v'shochbeinu, uvkumenu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, le'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Baruch Shem kevod malchuto, le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha, ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
At the top of page 159, we read together. Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect. The song of God's miracles, on earth protected and cherished. A gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content. Her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לבני משה ומרים, זה לי ענו ואמרו, Shamru, page 162. Israel et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה Adonai, et hashamayim, et haaretz, vayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל on page 164, and with the even pages that follow, please rise for our Amidah. Adonai, sifatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'Konei Hakol, Ve'Zocher Chazdei Avot ve'Imahot, U'Mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Le'man Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al givurot, Umidom elach, Melech memit umchayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. Page 172 and 3. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. These hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. Baruch atah Adonai, Kadesh HaShabbat. Adeshenu b'mitzvotecha, v'timkeinu b'toratecha. Zameinu mituvecha, v'samcheinu b'shuatecha. V'ta'er libeinu le'ovnecha v'emet.
read together in the middle of page 176. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulcha na'eh lehodot.
Shalom Rabbi Yisrael Achad, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rabbi Yisrael Achad, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rabbi Yisrael Achad, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rabbi Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki ata umelech Adon, Lechol hashalom. Ki ata umelech Adon, Lechol hashalom. Rabbi Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rabbi Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarich et amcha Yisrael. Bechol עת ובשעה, בשלומך. Baruch atah Adonai, המברך את עמו ישראל. Shalom Rabbi Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. 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 Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. We pause for a moment of silent prayer.
We always take a moment in our service to say a prayer for those who are in need of healing and wholeness, be it of their body, their mind, or their spirit. This evening, we especially call to mind in our prayers Stephen Rice, Jordan Silverman, Brian Roche, Roberta Feibush, Arlene Schwartz, Harriet Domro, Barbara Roth, Ron Labovitz, Elisa Foreman, Dina Silverman, Amy Gutterson, Mel Crystal, Gail Schesser, Brian Lynn, Hillary Gross, Skylar Herman, Sid Schulman, Sarah Henney, Jordan Horowitz, Grayson Chukovsky, Spencer Gray Rothstein, Brody Scher, Vera Schwartz, Samuel Finkelstein, Alexander and Eugenia Litovskaya, Debbie Pincus, Joyce Welkus, Sandy Tankus, Jared Narodsky, Howard Shane, Ava Wasserman, Evan Goldberg, David Aaron, Carrie Martuccelli, Rachel Orenstein, Rich Riley, Tony Buxbaum, Freda Malka, Lipa Goodle, Sky Tiederman, Maya Madeline Capuschilli, Paul Phillips, Jordan Mattis, Jay Teitelbaum, Rabbi Robert Orak, Nancy Baskin, Martha Brandween, Norma Cohn, Miriam Salons, Eileen High, Nancy Keller Coffey, Marcy Seligman Waite, Marilyn Morgofsky, Robert Summers, and Janet F. Dargitz. And of course, we hold in our hearts all those who are afflicted with COVID-19. If there are people that you'd like to mention this evening who could use a prayer for healing, we invite you to simply say their names aloud now. For those we've named, for those we haven't, and for those we name silently in our hearts. Misha Beirach, Avotenu V'Imotenu. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all those who are ill. May their doctors and nurses be skillful and compassionate. May those who care for them find support and comfort. And may they all be granted refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, the complete healing of their bodies and spirits, as together we say.
Rifa'enu Adonai v'nerafeh, Hoshienu v'nivashea, El karov lechol korav, ach karov lireav isho. We pray for healing of the body. We pray for healing of the soul, for strength of flesh and mind and spirit. We pray to once again be whole. Eladar Fana. Oh, please heal us now. Refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, refuat shelema. Eladar Fana. Oh, please heal us now. Refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, refuat shelema. Heal us now. Heal us now. הושיע את עמך, וברך את נחלתך, ורעים ונשאים על העולם. מי שבירך אבותינו, מי שבירך אמותינו, אנא אדוני הושיענה. We pray for healing of our people. We pray for healing of the land and peace for every race and nation, side by side, arm in arm, hand in hand. Shelema, Hilas now, Hilas now, Hilas now.
It is my distinct pleasure to be able to introduce our guest speaker for this evening and the first speaker of our Shabbat Speaker Series of 2023, Rabbi Josh Weinberg. I first met Rabbi Josh when I was a student on the Cincinnati campus of the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion a few years ago, and saw him again and again as I went to the APAC Policy Conference in DC as a LaFell Fellow. And Rabbi Weinberg is a brilliant, charismatic Zionist, and we are so lucky to welcome here to our community here this evening. Rabbi Josh Weinberg serves as the Vice President of the URJ for Israel and Reform Zionism and is the Executive Director of ARTSA, the Association of Reform Zionists of America. He was ordained from the HUCJIR Israeli Rabbinic Program in Jerusalem and is currently living in New York. Josh previously served as the Director of the Israel Program for the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College and as a faculty member of Nifty EIE High School in Israel, teaching Jewish history. Josh is a reserve officer in the IDF spokesperson unit, has hiked the Israel Trail, and came on Aliyah to Israel in 2003. Originally from Chicago, he has a BA from University of Wisconsin in Hebrew Literature, Political Science, and International Relations, and an MA at the Hebrew University in Jewish Education. Josh has taught and lectured widely throughout Israel, the US, and Europe, as well as on Kivunim and on Shanat Netzer gap year programs. He has led numerous tours and trained Torah educators for the Reform Movement's Israel experiences. In addition to being a storytelling maven, Josh has a passion for the environment and spends lots of time outdoors hiking and climbing, playing music and volleyball. Rabbi Weinberg is passionate about anything connected to Israel and hopes to strengthen the connection between the Reform Movement and the Jewish state. He is married to Mara Sheftel-Getz and is the proud Abba of Noah, Ella, Maya, and Alma. Please welcome Rabbi Weinberg. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbos.
Well, thank you, Rabbi Falco. And, I only wish my mother could be here, too. It is really wonderful to be here, and I want to thank you, of course, and Rabbi Pankin and Cantor Shakerbriskin and Fabian and our wonderful choir and all of you, and of course, my good friends and partners in crime, Mark and Shelley Wilner, who are so passionate and dedicated to this work, and I can't thank you enough. And it's wonderful to see also Monmouth Temple here together, because the notion that Israel could be the great unifier is something that just brings so much warmth to my heart. I'm told sometimes that Israel can be a divisive issue. I don't know if any of you have heard that before. How many of you have had a conversation recently about Israel? Let's say in the last 6 days, 6 months? Yeah. And how many of those conversations were just so lovely and so easy, and you left feeling, with a warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart? No, none of you? No one's raising their hand? Okay. How many of you were really struggling with this issue? Yeah. How many of you think that this is a hard issue that could potentially divide us? But no, actually tonight we're coming together around this issue, and that is beautiful. I'm also here with a heavy heart and a bit of sadness today. Not only because today, on the 27th day of the month of January, which is the day that the international community chose to commemorate the greatest tragedy to ever befall our people in the Shoah, and those of you who frequent this Beit Tfilah, this sanctuary, will see it as a constant reminder on the walls and in our hearts often that this was now the 78th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, to which we often tell ourselves a repetitive mantra of 2 words: never again. Never again shall this happen to our people. Never again should this happen to any people. And with additional sadness, many of us learned this afternoon that 7 Jews were murdered in a Beit Knesset, in a synagogue, coming like many of us did this evening to welcome in Shabbat, to pray the evening prayers, and now whose lives will be no more because they were Jewish. And we think about those lessons about never again, yet it continues to happen. And we thought that Israel would be the answer to that question. We thought that Israel would be the solution to what some called the Jewish problem or the Jewish question, in fact. Well, despite the difficulties and despite the complexities and despite the deep sadness that many of us feel, especially on a day like today, when we know that there are families who are now planning the funerals of their loved ones, I want to say something that might be obvious, and it might be something that some of us think about and take for granted, but I'll say it nonetheless. That I believe now, almost after 75 years, that the state of Israel has been an unparalleled, tremendous success story. It would be almost like a Hollywood movie to think about the fact that a people who were exiled after 2,000 years come back and recreate, rebuild, build something new in their ancestral homeland to create this advanced industrial democracy where 5-year-olds run around and speak the language of the Bible. That is a miracle that gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. How many of you have been to Israel? Okay. How many of you are what we call repeat offenders and you've been more than once? Okay. And how many people would like to go back again? Maybe, Rabbi, we could organize something like that. That would be wonderful. So you may know what I'm talking about in this tremendous success story. Yet if I said it was a success, right, what did it in fact succeed in doing? And what are the challenges that still remain? Because even when we dare to live the dream, we must also face the reality. And despite the tremendous success story in Israel's thriving success and economy and high tech and the startup nation and all of that, we have made our fair share of mistakes. We are still plagued by many questions yet unanswered. We haven't quite figured out exactly what it means to be Jewish in the Jewish state. We haven't even quite set what are the final borders of the country going to be. And it's with that question that I want to think together with us about the Z word. You know, as Rabbi Falco mentioned, I made Aliyah and lived in Israel for a number of years, and despite having grown up here and being almost fluent in English, when I came back to the United States, I was missing a few of those social cues. So what's the first question that people generally ask in the United States when you meet someone for the first time? It's not, how are you, or where are you from? What do you do? So someone said, oh, hi, what do you do? And I said, about what? I said, what do you do? And I said, oh, okay, well, I'm head of the Reform Zionist organization. And you know that moment in the movies when the record player screeches to a halt and the crickets are in the background and there's that uncomfortable and awkward silence, and someone says, well, we don't know each other well enough for you to have just used the Z word. Right? Oh, Zionism, that must be. And then they would proceed to tell me what their impression, and often I would say misconception, of what Zionism was. So let's talk about it. Let's dare to even reclaim the term Zionism, which was our people's national liberation movement. But what does it really mean today? And before I get to my definitions, I thought I'd share with you a little bit of my own personal quest and personal journey of what it meant to be a Zionist. You see, making Aliyah and going to live in Israel was a dream fulfilled that really filled the void in my life of what Jewish identity was going to be. But upon arriving there, I realized I couldn't just be a secular nationalist, and it really just wasn't enough to come and live there. So fortunately for me, and you may have heard other members of the clergy refer to this moment when they received their calling. You've heard of that concept before? Well, fortunately for me, mine came in the form of a phone call, which is helpful. And on the other side, it was a friend of mine, a conservative rabbi, and he said to me, listen, it's nice that you're working with affluent American teenagers and teaching them Jewish history, but I want you to work with some real Israelis. And I said, okay, well, what did you have in mind? He says, what are you doing on Shabbat? I said, I have no plans. He said, okay, good. I'll pick you up at 2 o'clock. And on Friday afternoon, because every good Hasidic story begins on a Friday afternoon as the sun was setting. Okay. On a Friday afternoon, he picked me up. We drove from Jerusalem to a development town halfway between Tel Aviv and nowhere called Kiryat Gat. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Kiryat Gat. Well, it was a development town in the 50s where different waves of olim, different waves of immigration came and settled there, and it was a bit dusty and somewhat neglected. And we pull up to a boarding school with whom this rabbi had a relationship. He goes, you're going to be the Shabbat guy. And I said, you want me to be the Shabbos guy here? He says, no. He says, no, you're going to help lead services and do activities with the kids and have discussions with them and be a positive Jewish role model. And I said, well, okay, I was a camp counselor long enough in life. I think I can handle that. And as we come in, I was introduced to some of the staff there, some of their madrichim, their counselors, and I noticed as the kids are filing into the makeshift prefabricated structure that would serve as their Beit Knesset, as their sanctuary that evening, I noticed 2 kids, maybe 10 or 11 years old, break out into a fist fight over, it turns out, was over who would have the honor of passing out the Sidurim that evening. Yikes. And so one of their madrichim approached me and welcomed, the new Shabbat guy. So wonderful for you to be here. And we started to talk, and he said, tell me something. Is that a slight American accent in your Hebrew? I said, well, I came here on Aliyah just about 3 or 4 years ago. And I thought he was going to say, well, that's wonderful. And we were going to sing Hatikva and embrace and everything. He said, no. These kids are going to eat you alive. I said, thank you. He says, but don't worry, I'm going to help. Because I'm going to teach you a song that we sing here. And in fact, we are the only institution in the entire state of Israel that sings this song. So if you know it, they'll think that you're one of us, and they'll go with you. I said, oh, my, thank goodness for this guy. He says, we don't have a lot of time. Come with me. And we go around the corner, and he says, all right, listen, it goes like this. And he begins to sing. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha. Now, it's a different melody. This wasn't written by our own cantor here. It was written by another cantor and rabbi, reform rabbi, of course. And I started to laugh. He says, wait, you know that song? I said, well, I grew up 1.5 miles away from Cantor Jeff Klepper and Rabbi Dan Freelander. I just saw him in Israel last week. And he said, I don't know who those people are. I said, they're the guys that wrote the song. And he said, now, you all have met Israelis, right? What's the worst thing in the world for an Israeli to be? He said, if some cantor in America told you he wrote that song, because the song is right here in the Siddur. I said, he wrote the melody, not the words, fine. Not important. He goes, okay, you can sing the song, and he kind of like shoves me into the synagogue. And we get through a painful Kabbalat Shabbat, if you remember the fist fight. And you see, I had been wondering what Zionism was going to be. I was wondering, I came there and I said, I want to be romantic and I want to drain the swamps and work the land. And my friends laughed at me and they said, you're about 100 years too late. And they said, if you want to be a Zionist now, you ought to go into high tech. I said, well, that's great, but I'm a Jewish educator. I'm a rabbi. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. And I said, okay, well, that's what it is. And there was those conversations going around in my head as I was looking out at this group of 60 or so kids, ages 8 to 18, who were there because their parents couldn't take care of them. They were children from Ethiopia, Israelis from the former Soviet Union, Israelis from Morocco, from Yemen, from all over the place. Sitting together, boys and girls, not obvious, praying out of a Sephardic Orthodox Siddur and singing the same song that I grew up with here at my URJ camp, in my synagogue, in my youth movement, written by a Reform rabbi and cantor. And we got to that moment in the service, much as we did today. We prayed together the Amidah, and it was time to sing, and I mustered up all the strength and courage I had, and I began to sing, Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha. And like magic, they all straightened up in their seats, and they stopped pinching each other and messing around, and began to belt out a very slightly off-key Israeli version of the same song that I had grown up with. And then it hit me. I said, I'm too late to be a pioneer and to work the land, and I'm no good at high tech. But I can bring Reform Judaism to Israel. And that is going to be my Zionism. You see, because Israelis are now waking up to a reality in which having a Jewish state doesn't necessarily mean having a Jewish community or even a Jewish identity. And this polarizing dichotomy between religious, read Orthodox, and secular no longer answers the needs of the mainstream. And just like many of us here who are coming because we're looking for community, because of meaning, because we want to celebrate our holidays and our Shabbatot and our life cycle events together, so too Israelis are asking these big questions. And it's our moment to change what it means to be Jewish in the Jewish state. And it's at this moment when we need to double down. It's at this moment when many of the sacred institutions and the values that we hold near are being deeply challenged. It is at this moment when the current government of Israel and the current coalition are proposing reforms to Israel's judiciary, changing those institutions, dismantling the checks and balances of a functioning democracy, potentially causing irreversible damage, moving Israel to be more a Jewish state than a democratic state. It is that moving away from the vision of Israel's founders who wrote in paragraph 13 of the Declaration of Independence that Israel, that this Jewish state would be champion freedom of religion, diversity of sex, race, ethnicity, all of those things that we hold dear to us as Jews and as those who hold up our democratic institutions. And my friends, the silver lining here is that it is our reform movement. It is the institutions of our movement, our 54 congregations in Israel, our 2 pre-army preparatory courses, our youth movement, and of course our legal advocacy and social justice wing, the Israel Religious Action Center, who are leading the charge to stand up against these dangerous challenges. And it is our movement here who is supporting them, is working with them, is helping to train them, right? And is saying that our Zionism, our connection, our feelings for what it means to have a Jewish state goes beyond and transcends any government and any policy, full stop. And when we see those dangerous policies, when we see the threats to minorities, to the LGBTQ community, to reforming conservative Jews, even to the non-Jewish minorities, we have to remind ourselves that Zionism is about these 3 things. It's based on the famous saying from Hillel the Elder, Im ein ani li mili, uchshani la'atzmi ma'ani. So first, if I am not for myself, then we have to be for ourselves. Right? Zionism is about collective responsibility and taking care of Jewish people wherever they should live. But then we have to ask the question, Mili, who are we? Because Zionism was also a revolution, not only in Jewishness, but in Judaism itself. And we are doing that, and we are changing, and we are creating something new. And if I'm only for myself, what am I? Because now, after 2,000 years, we're beginning to understand what it actually means to have power. Most of our Jewish literature and our Jewish legal literature, our Jewish legal works were created in a situation where we were guests, right, under the rule of someone else. And now, for the first time, it's upon us to create a situation in which we are the sovereign, in which we are the powerful force there, and we must be judged on how we treat the other, how we treat the minorities, how we treat others who are powerless and who are vulnerable in our societies. That is our calling right now. And that is what I want to invite you to join me on, that sacred journey, that mission, to not only help build up Israel, but help be built by it. That's the mission of Artza, that's the mission of our reform movement. And when you click that box on your dues, I think it's a check, not a click, right? When you check off that box, say, yeah, I'm part of that. Then you're part of everything that we've said here tonight. You're part of reminding Israel of what it says in its founding document. You're part of saying, yes, Israel must be a strong and secure Jewish state, and yes, Israel also must be a democracy, but democracy is not enough. Because a democracy could just mean the tyranny of the majority. No, Israel actually has to be a liberal democracy, because we have to remind you of what it says over and over again in the Torah, and we read it in this week's Torah portion. I was told by Rabbi Penkin that you review the Torah portion every night before you go to bed for 15 minutes each night, so I don't need to tell you anymore, but you're all well versed, okay? But our story of leading Egypt is the story that must guide our values all the time, because we know what it was like to be vulnerable. And we look at what happened 78 years ago, not just 3,000 years ago. we know what it was like to not be taken in by anyone else, to have no one there to rescue us, and to be left, right? To be left alone in the entire world. And we have to say, never again. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi Weinberg. You gave us a lot to think about tonight. And I just want to remind you that in the coming months, it's actually not a check off.
Yeah.
It is an opt-out program. So we ask all of you in our congregation to support ARTSA when it will arrive on your bill. If you don't want to, you can check it off, but we want you to. And you will be supporting the work of the reform movement, strengthening Zionism and strengthening our Jewish values in the land of Israel. So I hope that you will join me and become an ARTSA member and tell everyone you know to go online and look at ARTSA and he writes a great Devar Torah every week, an update on what ARTSA is doing, an update on what Israel is, what's happening in Israel. I'll sign up for it. I get it. I love it.
So you're the one.
I'm the one. And then I call your mother and I say, oh, it was so good this week. But sign up and you'll learn about the wonderful work of ARTSA and what Rabbi Weinberg is doing. So thank you so much. We will continue page 586. And also I forgot to mention that during Oneg, you're going to take the opportunity for a little bit of dialogue and more questions. So grab your regalach and your coffee and we'll gather around a table and continue this discussion. We continue page 586 with Aleinu, please rise as the ark is opened.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, atet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu keguyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, vanachnu Mishavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom ha'u bayom ha'u
Please be seated. Page 599. We think now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. If you're here this evening remembering a loved one, we invite you to rise and to remain standing until we all join together for the mourner's Kaddish at the end. We begin by remembering the over 1.1 million Americans and the 6.7 million human beings around the world who have succumbed to COVID-19. We recall those whose families are currently in the 7-day mourning period of Shiva: Claudia Pletter, sister of Marcia Hirsch, and Carl Kesselman. We recall the names of those whose families are currently in the 30-day mourning period of Shloshim: Shelley Glashow, Frederick Neeson, and Harold Spitalnik. And if you are here remembering someone who has passed away in the last year, we invite you to rise. We recall the names of those whose yahrzeit falls this week: Hyman Kleonsky, Ben Alexander, Edgar Ulster, Harold Altman, Bruce Barron, Simon James Beiser, Ann Barrett, Howard Bodner, Merrill Broad, Ann Rice Brown, Sidney Kammer, Shirley Canerick, Ellen Carter, Florence Cohen, Gail Cohen, Frances Cole, Hilda Conklin, Lee Cooper, Frida Kotler, Ann Denbaum, Paula Diamond, Hilda Draymond, Alan Elfergang, William Flamholtz, Stanley Frankenthaler, Yaffa Fur, Shirley Zeitlin-Gardy, Jerry Geller, Bernard Goldberg, Charles Goldberg, Gerald David Goldsmith, George Goldstein, Jesse J. Goodman, Murray Greenberg, Minnie Greenfield, Phyllis Gutman, Anna Haft, Ethel Halfin, Herbert Halpern,
Edith Hausman, Louis Hershey, Emmanuel Hershkovitz, Harriet Hetchkop, Helen Holzer, Chester Horn, Robert Iskowitz, Harold Jacobson, Shaja Wiesel Janower, Myra Kalman, Louis Kargman, Scott Kasner, Sylvia Katkin, Michael Katz, Esther Kesselman, Bertram Klein, Mary Koenig, Hazel Corman, Jacob Kornbluh, Shirley Kraustein, David Kramer, Arthur B. Leyland, Bessie Litovsky, Harry Levin, Evelyn Levine, Blanche Levy, Ronald Lipsky, Stanley Lynn, Sidney Make, Rose Manne, Valley Marks, Nathan Marks, Elsa Mautner, Raymond Marvis, Herman Messenger, Gary Mester, Henry Miller, Lillian Morrison, Joseph Moskowitz.
Erna S. Munzer, Jerome Nathanson, David Novick, Deborah Orenstein, Jack Urach, Leonard Pensioner, Daniel Perchik, Ray Shapiro-Perrell, Alice Perlman, Eleanor Pesco, Rose Polikoff, Rose Portnoy, George Resch, Irene Robbins, Henry Rosen, Robert Rosenberg, Nina Etkin Ross, Ruth Safran, D. Gloria Salomon, Philip Samo, Susan Sand, Bella Schlisberg, Tilly Schneider, Esther Schubert, Alan Shachet, Jesse Sclaren, Albert Snyder, Fred Strauss, Evelyn Sugar, Martin L. Wachtel, Artie E. Weiss, Kurt V. Weiss, Samuel Wishansky, Carly Elise Wines, Gregory Wojcik, Louise Ann Zeller, Marianne Zauderer. Each week we name individually 6 who perished in the Shoah, 6 different individuals, 6 souls. This evening we also commemorate International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Israel Dayan, Avram Yaakov, Isa Kravitz, Basia Schwartzman, Nachum Lipovetsky, Rochel Pat.
Zichronam Levracha, may those who have touched our lives continue to bless us through the beauty of their memory. We rise now as a community for the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabba, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehi shemei Rabba mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yit'halal, shemei dekudsha v'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shamaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to those who mourn and comfort to those who are bereaved, as together we sing.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh
be seated. We want to take a moment to thank those who made donations to the synagogue this week, because those donations help us build the future of Judaism in Monmouth County and around the world. This week, donations were made in memory of Morton Cohen for the yahrzeit of George Goldstein, Leonard Pensioner, Gary Mester, Irma Schneier, Anna Haft, Bessie Zolan Fox, Artie Weiss, Deborah Orenstein, Ann Rice Brown, Paula Diamond, Bernard Goldberg, Esther Schubert, Ann Denbaum, Jerry Geller, Herbert Messenger, Edith Hausman, Harold Altman, Frida Kotler, Robert Iskowitz, Stanley Lynn, Mary Koenig, Evelyn Levine, Myra Kelman, Gail Cohn, Edgar Ulster, and Arthur Lallen. Donations were made in honor of the engagement of Benjamin Sugarman to Emily Breitbart, and lots of babies, the birth of Ethan Raphael Capauno, the birth of Madeline Grace Meyer, and the birth of Gavin Ross Schleifer. Donations were made for a complete and speedy recovery of Bert Sivan, Jay Teitelbaum, and Nanette Rosiello, and in appreciation of prayers said and the clergy. And a mazel tov. This is a big mazel tov, so just bear with me for a moment because it affects a lot of families in our congregation. But mazel tov to Lois Schleifer on the birth of her grandson, Gavin Ross Schleifer, and Laura Bursey on the birth of her great-grandson, Gavin Ross Schleifer. Gavin is the nephew of Danielle Schleifer, Heather and Daniel Broderick. He's the cousin of Isabella, Jacob, and Gabriella, and aunt and uncle Lisa and Kenneth Bursey, and great-aunt Arlene Schwartz, and cousin of the Weinthal family. This child has a lot of yichus in our synagogue. Any other good things going on? Oh, come on. You know your homework. You're supposed to come with something good to share this week. Yes? Wait. Fabian, Fabian's coming. That way people online can hear you too.
Okay, I'll just repeat that. My beautiful niece Alana, who lives in California, whom we don't get to see that often, she and her husband just welcomed their new baby girl.
What's the name?
Oh, her name? It's unusual. Her name is Dylan Felicity.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. I live in California, so, you know.
Nice. Any other good things happen this weekend? Oh, Alan.
I want to thank the Lifelong Learning Committee for putting on the genealogy presentation a few weeks ago. I became hooked, and I started searching, and I discovered a long-lost cousin whose grandmother and my grandmother were sisters, but they were 20 years apart in age, which is why we lost track of that side of the family. And they're out in Santa Barbara, so I'm planning on going out and seeing them this summer.
Wow. That's awesome. Mazel tov.
Long lost family.
Any other good things this week? No? All right, well, you know your assignment. Come back next week with something good. Well, to prepare ourselves for the oneg, let's join together in motzi. If you are not yet bar bat mitzvah, if you are celebrating an anniversary or a birthday, or if you just like challah, come on up.
Hamotzi lachem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our prayer is joyfully said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avot. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu v'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu v'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam. shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam.
As we come in blessing, so too we leave one another in blessing, and I invite you to either take hold of the people you came with, or spread out your hands and share blessing, or put your hands on your heart as we share a moment of blessing as we leave one another. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May you be blessed, may you be safe. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May you be luminous, may you be loved. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May you be joyous, may you be healthy, may you be whole. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam.
Shabbat shalom.